Hey guys, thanks for coming to my brand new channel, Prioritize Privacy, where I'm going to take a look at some of the ways that you can privatize your life, especially on a Windows 10 machine. And that's actually what we're going to be focusing on. Now, a lot of these things that you can do here can be done on a Windows 8 or 8.1 or even a Windows 11 machine, but we're going to stick with Windows 10. And I'm going to use my school computer here to kind of show you some examples of some things that you can do to minimize your digital footprint on a shared machine. Of course, these are all things that you would want to do on a shared machine, not necessarily your personal machine. I can't stress that enough. If you have a machine that you share with other people, whether it be at your company or your school or whatever institution you're at, especially if you're using stuff that is like personally identifying information from other people or yourself, you definitely want to take a look at least some of these settings and make sure that you are keeping your stuff locked up really tight. So without further ado, let's jump into this. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to hit the Settings app. So if you type in Settings after pressing the Windows key, or you can just simply go to here, Windows, and find Settings right there. That'll work as well. And the first place we're going to look is actually right here in the Privacy section. If you click on that, over here on the left-hand side where it says Windows permissions, these are all the things that Windows asks you about when it first installs itself on a brand new computer. Now, you probably weren't there when it did that. If you were, you probably just said yes to everything. Most people do, but here's where you can kind of take a look and review those things. So for general purposes, over here where it says change privacy options, I'm going to turn a lot of these things off here. For instance, let websites provide locally relevant content by accessing my language list. I'm actually going to leave that one on. I lied. I'll leave that one on because I don't mind too much if they access my language, because that means everything that I look at is going to give me, or is going to come back to me in the language that I speak. But these other two down here will let Windows track app launches and show me suggested content. When you see the words track or suggested, what that means is they are saving the history of things that you do and the things that you use on the computer. And if you're somebody who wants to keep a lot of that stuff private because, again, someone else is going to be using that computer, you definitely want to turn these two things off. You don't want Windows to track any of that stuff. When I go to speech, I keep that one off too. Inking, also turn that one off. And diagnostics and feedback, I'm going to keep that at the minimum setting. So right here, just the required diagnostic. And everything else down here, improve and tailored experiences, especially this one. When it says tailored experiences too, that's the same as tracking and suggested apps. I want to turn that off because I don't want Microsoft to be tracking those things on my computer or on the cloud, because again, that's something that we'll call them a bad actor can access and potentially gain personally identifying information about you or clients or whoever else might be, whoever else's information might be on that computer. The last thing here is the activity history. What I like to do is I like to turn this one off, storing the activity history on this device, again, simply because I sometimes on my school computer, I access sensitive information having to do with a business that I run with a buddy of mine in another state. And his personally identifiable information is in PDFs and documents on this computer, and I definitely do not want that to be accessed by anybody who ends up using this computer after me or anyone who gets a hold of this computer when I'm not looking. So I uncheck that, and I uncheck send my activity history to Microsoft. This actually activity history thing too, this is right down here. If you look at the this task view button and you click that, when it opens that up, normally what you'll see is these, in this case, windows that I have open here. But then if you look down here, on your machine, if you don't have that button unchecked, then what you're going to see is recent documents. And all those recent documents there, those are going to be easily accessible by somebody else who may gain access to your computer. And the reason I turn that off is because let's say I open one of those PDFs that has my business partner or my buddy's personally identifiable information on there. If I neglect to remove that from this recents list and somebody else gets a hold of my computer, they can just simply hit that task button and see that's where I just was, click on that button and click on that icon and immediately go right to that document and get his information without even having to search for it. It makes it a lot harder for somebody to find that stuff if they get a hold of your computer. Now, of course, we'll talk in a future video about how to keep people from getting onto your computer without your knowledge, but this is a just in case. I say a worst case scenario. And then likewise, if you already have a bunch of those things showing up down here at the bottom, recent documents and whatnot, what you can do to clear that out is just simply hit this clear activity history and it'll all go away. And that's it, cleared it out. So I got those unchecked, cleared that out, we're good. And then the other things that I want to take a look at here are going to be in personalization. Real quick, if I take a look over here at the left-hand side, find the Start menu. Start menu options do the exact same thing as what I just kind of did with like the task view and all that stuff, these options here are going to do a lot of that too. So I see a show recently added apps. I would want to ideally turn that one off if I could. Obviously, it's telling me to activate Windows now. That's not something I have an option to do. But if you have that option, turn this one off. Same thing with showing most used apps and showing suggestions. Definitely turn those three off if you can. Because again, when you bring up that start menu, if you have newly installed programs, they're going to show up as highlighted programs. And if you have recently used documents, again, they'll show up in this start menu as well, easily accessible by somebody else who gains access to your computer without your knowledge. Those are things that you don't want them to actually be able to get right into. Again, for going back here where it says showing recently added apps or most used apps, let's say you do a lot of tax stuff for friends or family. You don't want somebody to get onto your computer and see right here highlighted at the top, QuickBooks, highlighted as a most used app. Because if I'm a bad actor and I steal your computer, that's the first place I'm going to go is your most used app. Click on QuickBooks and open up recent files. Boom, I've got all of their personal identifiable information without even having to search for it. Whereas if you have these things turned off, Windows is not going to keep track of all that stuff for you. And so if somebody does get a hold of your computer, it's going to be a lot harder for them to find that stuff. Okay, so those are just some things that you might want to consider doing. All right, and then a couple other things that I want to look at. They're actually going to be in the File Explorer. So I'm going to go ahead and close the Settings app right now because I don't need that open anymore. And instead, I'm going to go to File Explorer. So there's a couple ways you can do this. You might have the icon down here on your taskbar. You can also hit Windows and just type in File Explorer. That works too. Or if you go to Start, and right over here on the left-hand side, if you click on Documents, that'll bring up your Documents folder. It's basically the same thing. It doesn't really matter where in File Explorer you end up, as long as you see this File button right up here at the left-hand side. So I'm going to click on that File button, and I'm going to bring up the Change Folder and Search options. And right here in this first tab, this General tab, I see right down here these two check boxes where it says Show Recently Used Files and Show Frequently Used Folders. This is the same idea as that Task button. If I don't want my recently used files showing up here in the bottom, I'm going to turn that off in the settings. Here is kind of the same thing, but it's in File Explorer instead. If I go to this PC, oh, hold on, I'm going to show you what it actually looks like so you can see it. If I go to this PC, notice right down here, I've got a list of recent files. Boom, right there. So I've got this, these two PDFs and this picture right here that I've recently downloaded. And they're just showing right up there. So if somebody were to get a hold of my computer right now, they would see these recent files and say, oh, I wonder what those are. Interesting. And just immediately click on them and open them up. I don't want them to be able to do that. So I'm going to go back to here, File, Change Folder and Search Options. And right here at the bottom again, I'm going to go ahead and click off this Show Recently Used Files and Show Frequently Used Folders in Quick Access. All right. Now I'm going to clear this in a second, but I want to show you what it actually, or where you actually find this. If you wanted to search for it on your computer, if you were curious, because some people are. So if I were to go here, if you click on the address bar and type in %app data %, okay, right here you should see an option that says Microsoft. You might have more things also, by the way. So in your roaming folder and app data, you might have a whole bunch more stuff. So you might have to search for it, but go to Microsoft. You're going to go to Windows. And then right here where it says recent items, check it out. These are all the recent items that I've had on this computer that either I can access because they still exist, or this text document, for instance, I made that a while ago and then I deleted it. And yet it is still available here in my recents. So even if you delete a file, Windows still keeps it there. And you might not want that. That might be a bad thing for you. You might not want anyone to be able to access that stuff. If you delete, say, like a PDF with somebody's social security numbers on it, this would be a first place that a bad actor can go and take a look for personally identifiable information. So going back to, again, changing folder and search options, I'm going to uncheck these two boxes. Okay. Once I apply that, that should go away. There you go. But over here, I've still got them in this list. All right. And so this clear button will take care of that. So give it a second to go ahead and do its thing. And now that folder is empty. Okay. Now that's not to say that they're not able to be accessed still. If you know anything about how Windows deletes files, they're not really gone from the hard drive. You'll have to overwrite those, but I'll show you how to do that in a future video. For right now, at least, they are deleted and they will be essentially gone from your hard drive after a short amount of time of using the computer. Okay. But if you're expecting that computer to be stolen from you at any time in the near future, I've got a future video for you to watch about how to wipe those files completely off the face of your hard drive. Okay, now one other thing that I wanted to show you just real quick, this is kind of a neat one. I'm going to close this real fast. I'm going to go to downloads here. Now here in downloads, I've got 3 files. I've got 2 PDFs and a picture. Now normally these PDFs would actually be showing information in their large thumbnails, but they're not. But you can see this picture right here is of the Washington Monument. That's kind of cool. And I don't want that picture to be showing up there. Why? Because Windows saves all thumbnails. And so like, let's say you delete this picture because it has some information on it. Like again, you took a picture of maybe a social security card, or you took a picture of somebody's bank information, and then it ended up on your computer. You want to make sure that that doesn't fall into the wrong hands. Well, if it's saved as a thumbnail, they can easily access that thumbnail by going to a similar place as before. So again, here in app data, but instead go to local. Now remember how I said getting to app data, it's just simply percent app data percent. We're going to go up 1 in this folder, so up 1. And then here I've got these 3 main folders. We're going to go to local, we're going to go to Microsoft, we're going to go to Windows, and then we're going to go to Explorer. And here in Explorer are all the icons and all the thumbnails that have ever existed on your computer. Even if you delete a file, that thumbnail is still somewhere in this thumbnail cache, right? And again, as I mentioned before, this is not something that you want to do on a personal computer, but if you have to worry about it on, say, like a work computer or a shared computer, this is something you would consider. Go to File, change folder and search options, and then right here in View, we're going to take a look at this first box. Always show icons, never thumbnails. Go ahead and check that one and hit apply. And now all I've got is icons, no thumbnails. Now this is very inconvenient for a personal computer, so I don't recommend doing that. But if it's for a work computer or a shared computer, definitely consider doing it, right? And then you may say to yourself, well, all right, but that thumbnail cache still exists. How do I get rid of that? That one's a pretty easy one. Just open up your Windows or your Start menu, type in disk cleanup. And then right down here, if you scroll in disk cleanup to the very, very bottom, you'll notice that thumbnails is one of the options. So if you hit OK, that will clear out your thumbnails and basically everything else that you have checked in that box. Now, here's the thing. You'll notice it says thumb cache to delete. All those thumb caches are still there. This is the .tmp file. That stands for temporary. These files don't actually go away until you restart the system. So you may notice that the thumbnail cache has all been deleted here, and now it's been relegated to this thumb cache to delete folder. These will go away when you restart the system, but not before it. Okay, and you can try and delete them, but a lot of times you'll run into issues where it'll say it's being used by another program. Just restart the system and then they'll be gone. Okay, all right, and that's all I got for you for kind of securing up your Windows. Again, I would recommend doing these for a shared computer or work computer or school computer like I've got here, and then that will make sure that your digital footprint in that computing space is not going to be easily accessible by a bad actor or somebody who might get a hold of your computer without your knowledge. All right, well, thanks for stopping by, and check out my future videos where I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about how to really secure up your machine, and including deleting files that you've deleted but you want to make sure that they're gone forever.